Fireburn. Why tell this story today? Well, once again, October 1st is the date when government choices decide whether workers are paid or left behind. In 1878, it was colonial contracts. In 2025, it's a federal shutdown. Both remind us that when the government fails, it's the working families who carry the weight first. Good day from the Virgin Islands. I'm Brian Loudon. On St. Croix in 1878, October 1st was known as Contract Day. The law forced plantation workers, the emancipated enslaved, to sign a new year-long contract or face punishment. Wages were fixed by legal decree, often 9 to 12 cents a day. Barely enough for food, never enough for independence. Families still lived in the same estate housing they had under slavery, still buying goods on credit from the same plantation stores trapped in debt that never cleared. And the one choice they had, moving from one estate to another, had to happen on this one single day. Freedom after emancipation had been written into law, but it came with the shackles of poverty that left little changed in their daily lives. Same fields, same hunger, the same power in the hands of the same planters. In 1878, thousands gathered in Frederickstead on the west end of the island of St. Croix for Contract Day. Word spread that a worker had died in police custody. Maybe rumors, maybe truth. Anger began to flare. By sundown, the town was ablaze. Cane fields, sugar works, estates, and government offices burned as Danish officials retreated into Fort Frederick. This blaze of passion and literal fire is Fireburn, the largest labor revolt in the Danish West Indian history. At its heart were four women: Queen Mary Thomas, Queen Agnes Solomon, Queen Matilda McBreen, and Queen Susanna Bottombelly Abramson. They weren't queens by birth, but by strength, remembered as queens for their defiance. Women who stood at the front of history when survival meant resistance. Queen Susanna has only recently had her role and importance discovered, and as new details emerge, the importance of these women come into light with more in Fireburn. In response to the crackdown was brutal. Dozens of workers were killed, the queens were arrested, shipped to Denmark, and imprisoned. Yet their actions forced colonial government to confront the injustices of the Labor Act, and the laws were changed in the years that followed. Not with one uprising, not without continued resolve. But as part of the even bigger story the U.S. Virgin Islands is still part of. That's why Contract Day matters. It wasn't just the anniversary of a bad law. It became the moment when ordinary people stood up to a system that demanded obedience and offered only hunger in return. And it matters today because once again, October 1st is about choices made far from here in the Virgin Islands. Choices that flood into the homes of Virgin Islanders with no dam. A federal shutdown may not look like colonial contracts, but it leaves the same scars. Working families paying the price for decisions they did not make. So I'll ask you directly, when you hear shutdown, what does it mean for you, your job, your benefits, your family? Tell me in the comments, because history isn't just about what happened in 1878. It's about what happens when governments forget the people who make survival possible. I'm Brian Loudon. This is your VI Update. Your islands, your news, our reporting.